Welcome back to Glow Up and Grow Up, the podcast where we talk about what really takes to evolve, not just from the outside, but from the inside out.
This is a space where we talk about real growth, real healing, and the stories behind the glow ups that people don't always see on social media.
So, yeah, today we're talking about life after bariatric surgery, which, by the way, I did have and I've talked about. So, near and dear to me, what no one prepares you for, and how to build a healthy life that lasts.
Our guest today is Shenelle, a post bariatric nutrition coach, helping people nourish their bodies and avoid weight regain.
So let's go. I'm gonna go over her bio. Green is the founder of Bariatric Rewrite, a post weight loss surgery coaching program that supports people navigating life. Oh, wait, I just realized life after bariatric surgery through nutrition, behavior change, and long term food relationship repair. A recovered alcoholic and food addict herself, Shenelle brings lived experience to the work she does, combining functional nutrition, behavior coaching, and radical honesty about what really happens after surgery. And I would say after any weight loss as well. So I'm just going to add that in there. After undergoing bariatric surgery in 2022, she realized quickly that surgery wasn't the finish line. It was the beginning of a much deeper healing process that most patients never prepare for. What started as a one on one support has grown into a multi coach program that has helped thousands of women rebuild trust with food, prevent weight gain, and create sustainable routines without diet culture, restriction, or shame. The bariatric rewrite now works with both post post op bariatric patients and individuals using GLP-1 medications, filling a critical gap between surgery, medication, and real life behavior. Shenelle is known for her no BS, compassionate coaching style and her ability to talk openly about topics many avoid, including transfer addiction, emotional eating, identity shifts after weight loss, and learning how to feel safe in your body again. Her work has earned recognition with the bariatric community, including becoming a corporate council member of the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. And at her core, Shenelle brings true glow ups don't come from shrinking your body, they come from rebuilding self trust, structure, and nourishment from the inside out. Woo! That was a lot. All right. Shenelle,
Woo!
That
welcome.
was a mouthful.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so I'll just, before we get into our segment, Caitlin, I just want to say that Shenelle and I actually had our surgery, I think, like 3 weeks apart from each other. So it's fun to watch, each other grow from what we were to what we are right now, of course, And so I'm
Mhm.
excited to kind of share what you've done because you've kind of taken this and made it your whole career now, kind of a whole career. So I love
Right.
stories like this of how life experience takes you to a whole new journey in life. And that's kind of the glow up and the grow up, right? So we'll get started. So I just want to kind of throw
Mhm.
that in there.
Yeah, for listeners meeting you for
Yeah.
the first time, can you tell us who you are today and what work you do in your own words?
Yeah, like you said, I'm the CEO founder. Fancy words to be saying, but the bariatric rewrite, I coach depending on how you want to frame it, but I work right now with about 200 individuals on a
Wow.
day-to-day basis who've had this surgery. We have a community of thousands, I think about 20,000 in our private Facebook group. And I really have like taken my entire identity and shifted it into here, which isn't surprising because I had many other identities before this surgery that were magnitudes my whole life as well. So today I get the joy of watching a lot of women and men change everything they know about themselves. And that is such a cool place to be.
How did your recovery journey shape how you approach health and healing?
Yeah, well, it's all encompassing really because it's very much a dominoes effect. I got sober from alcohol about 5 years ago, right around this time. 5 years ago I quit drinking, and that is what gave me the space to get bariatric surgery. I wouldn't have been as soon as I had gone in to talk about bariatric surgery and they said you can't drink for insert whatever that surgeon's recommendation would have been post-op, I would have been out of there. Because if it wouldn't have been the next week, we would have had problems. So I got sober, and then I ended up in a doctor's office to have my liver looked at. I had one of those appointments back in 2017 where they asked me how often I drank, and I lied, right? I didn't know what they were talking about. Like, I don't drink that often, which was a complete BS answer. And so when I got sober after like 7 months of sobriety, I was like, I need to go have my liver looked. I was really worried that I had created some long term damage. And I went into that appointment with a woman I had never met before, a doctor I'd never met before. And she was like, your liver's fine. Have you thought about weight loss surgery? And I was offended because I was not thinking about that. It was not on my radar at the time, but it was a 6-month process with my insurance company. And, I'm always been a little investigator myself. So I thought I'll go check it out, see what this is all about. And then before you know it, I, moved forward with the surgery. But when I had the surgery, um, I was on the same wavelength most bariatric people are. I was going through the socials of a lot of people, a lot of big time creators who had this surgery. And I thought, wow, this looks pretty easy. This looks like I get to do whatever I was doing before. And I got excited about that. And then in Alcoholics Anonymous, my sponsor at the time had the surgery and shared with me she had regained all her weight. And I thought, how did that happen? And she said I just wasn't ready to deal with my relationship with food. And it really spun me from what I had seen on socials as what to expect out of this journey to what the reality was going to be.
Wow. That's pretty cool. What led you to then finally having the surgery, saying like, okay, yes, I'm going to do it. And what was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah. So, well, it's a funny story. So when I left that doctor's appointment, I was, pretty offended about the idea of having surgery. And I, as an alcoholic, right, I'm often fueled for the wrong reasons on logic. And I had a boyfriend at the time who I called and said, "You're not going to believe what this doctor said to me. She said I should have weight loss surgery." And he goes, "Absolutely not." This guy and I couldn't have been any more toxic. So I was like, "I'll do it." If that's going to throw a bomb into our day, let's proceed forward on investigating it. So I did. And then I just sat through the classes, and I couldn't tell you, like, in hindsight, what made me decide to move forward with it. I think because I had that long drawn out window to kind of marinate in the idea. It would have been different if that doctor said to me, "You know what, come back here and we'll do it right now." I probably would have ran for the hills, right? I had a lot of time to think about it. The classes were, they were pretty elementary to stuff I'd learned about nutrition before. That wasn't really earth shattering, but I had time to think about it. And as I was thinking about it, and something I had learned in recovery from alcohol was I didn't really know how to be a sober woman. That was something I had to learn. I had to learn to act like a grown up. And I took that and translated it to my bariatric life, which is something else I've always struggled with, is I don't know how to be healthy. Like, I know how to be in a diet. Like, I'm very familiar with that, right? But I also know how not to care about anything and be like, this isn't the time, I'm doing me, right? I just never knew who I was in the middle. And that was a woman I had to like really start putting together. And when I got closer to my surgery date, I really honed in on that. And that's like the fundamentals of what we teach our clients today is like, if why we're called the rewrite is you have to like rewrite these things that you think you know about yourself, right? And also you have to understand your disease. And that's something I could talk immensely about because sometimes I'm super passionate
So,
about.
I was just curious, when I was my heaviest, I was probably closer to 350. And the reason I got surgery was because my blood pressure was not controllable. So, like, I was on blood pressure medication and it was still like 170 over 100 on blood pressure. And I'm like, I am gonna die. Yeah, I am gonna die. And, I didn't really think I had a food addiction, like myself. I didn't think I had a problem relationship with food until after I had surgery. And then I'm like, oh, wow, you don't need a whole plate of spaghetti to survive. Or, like I just like it was so eye-opening to me on my relationship with food,
Yeah.
how unhealthy it was. And like what you said, like you didn't know how to be healthy. I don't think anyone teaches you how to be healthy. Like I really don't in life. Like you just and I still struggle with that. Like I have to go get I don't know how to cook. I know you do a lot of recipes, so I'm probably gonna have to follow you on that because I need to learn how to cook because I really don't know how to cook. I get prep meals, and that's how I
Hmm.
like survive.
Yeah.
But I don't enjoy cooking, so it's really hard for me to be healthy, I guess
Yeah.
is kind of did
Yeah.
you realize like I look at pictures of myself and I didn't realize how fat I was. Did
Yeah, 1000%, girl. Like, I have on my phone, I have a folder of before photos that I use for content, and that folder is probably it's so small. I have like maybe 25 photos in there because I have untagged, deleted, blocked like anything I was ever put into that I didn't have my stamp of
Yeah.
approval on it, you know? Like I just had such a very like my
Yeah.
blinders couldn't have been on any tighter. You know, I was really ignorant to it. And I think culture allows
Hmm.
us to be ignorant to it because, I mean, you and I aren't far off in the age, right? And we kind of grew up in this space where it's, you know, really like, yes, love your body, be accepting of your body. But like at a certain point, you have to recognize how much you're
Yeah.
derailing your whole self and taking and tearing yourself down, right? I mean, I was doing that with my drinking, you know, I was ruining myself there as well. And many people could point that out to me, but people are a little bit more like, you know, sketch to say, hey, have you thought about your weight without just, you know, really
Yeah.
offending somebody? Because that's just the way we grew up is that this is an opt in thing. It's a seasonal thing. It's when we're vibing with it thing that we'll address it when we feel like addressing it. Like it's a controllable lever for us to lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain
Yeah,
weight.
it's nice. It's nice to
But,
be
you know,
coming
for,
on a New Year's resolutions and not saying,
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I'm
not
going on
have
a diet.
this.
It's like that is not the past couple of years has not been on
Hmm.
my thing. It's just I want to like be healthier, like learn to cook, like instead of a diet. So I'm super excited about that is no
Yeah.
longer part of my vocabulary. Oh, January 1st, I'm starting a diet, or like that is gone from me because I work out, I eat pretty healthy, but I think I can do better. So I'm really going to try to nourish my body by me
Yeah.
cooking.
And I'm not a cooker either. I also want to preference that. I'm not a cooker. I use a lot of AI today for this. In fact, we've like created products for our clients, like the recipe fix that gave people the ability to cook at home really simply with foods that are already in their house. Cause for me, like if I'm gonna cook, I have like a prepared grocery list with all the things. I have all the recipes and things here that I'm gonna do. And I go in the store and I get all the shit and I get all the stuff and I come home and then as soon as I have to start putting it away, I'm like, I'm not gonna prep it. I'm over it. Like
Yep.
my energy level is like gone now about the whole thing. Right. So today when I shop, I will go on Amazon and I'll have it delivered. I'll just buy what's on sale, like produce on sale, protein's on sale. I have it delivered and then I plug it into AI or the recipe fix that we created and come up with things to make at home based on my goals that I have. And I can tell it like I need this to take less than 10 minutes. I'm a horrible cook. I need step-by-step instructions so this entire thing's done at the same time at the end. You know, I've gone to the tune of being like, you know what? I've got some spare time. I want to like create this recipe like a Michelin five-star chef, which just means it takes longer to cook. It's the same stuff. Just takes a longer
That's a good idea.
process.
I
So
will
now I
put that in
enjoy
my plan.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you should
that's
try
good.
it. Yeah. I don't like still get super
Yeah.
excited about it.
I'll never
I'm
be
not that
excited about,
person
"Oh,
who's
I'm gonna
like
get ready to
that. I don't
cook."
have that
No,
gene.
no,
No.
no. Okay. No. So what
No.
was your biggest surprise for you after surgery?
My biggest surprise, how much people don't talk about food addiction after surgery. That was my biggest surprise. I thought that I was talking about something everybody else talked about. It turned out I was
Yeah.
not. And that really surprised me. Um, you know, but for my personal journey, I just had the same awes that a lot of people did, where it's like my brain was not braining at the speed that I was losing weight. And I remember going into like the store knowing I needed to buy size down, like multiple sizes down, and I had to still check. Like I'm going to get this 2XL even though like it makes no sense. And I had to stop ordering online cuz I would order online the wrong size cuz my brain just was like, we aren't sure. I'm not positive that that could possibly be a medium. I think we go with the 1X. Let's be safe, right? Like it just like my brain was light years behind the rest of my body.
Yes, I definitely deal with that a lot with my clients and clothes sales. A lot, a lot, a lot. Sometimes I
Yeah.
literally will send them the medium instead of the 1X that they got on purpose with a label that says, if this doesn't fit, return it. I still have the 1X, but they never return it. Um, so it is crazy how our brains do that. Um, what
Mhm.
common mistakes do you see people make post surgery? Like what's super common?
Yeah. So that story is always the same. And 70% of the clientele I have regained all of their weight or a good chunk of it after surgery. And it starts with a life event. You insert it. It can be as mediocre and as wild as you can think. I remember having a client whose husband was a serial killer in North America, who she divorced when she found
Well, that's
out,
a
Yeah.
clip for
and
TikTok.
he was up for and he was up for
Oh,
parole. He was up for parole, and like he
I
didn't
was
get
gonna
it,
be
but he
like,
was
wait,
up
a
for it,
serial killer
and
can
it
be
caused her to
released?
spiral. Yes, well, it was. I'll just say it wasn't the United States, but anyhow, it was sent her on a spiral, and I thought, wow, this is one for the books, man. Because most people will just be like, my second cousin died, and that was, that was the thing. It's all interpretive, It's just sort of like this little. What was the straw that broke the camel's back that took us out of our routine? And as soon as we were out of the routine, we kind of greenlight ourselves that we got to take care of everybody else. We can't be taking care of ourselves. And I think that from the addiction standpoint, addiction loves that thought process, because then we can't take, like, then we can do whatever we want. There's a really great solid story that says you can't take care of yourself. You got to do what's quick and easy for you, because you got to do these other things, right? And we got to numb ourselves, and that's okay if it's going to be food or insert whatever. And so that is number one by all means, is the life event, you name it. And in our program, when we have clients who have, like, we're really, from the get go, you're going to be with us for 4 months to a year, depending on where they are with us, and something will happen. Something crappy is happening. Like, and it will be the dog ran away, right? You lost the job. The guy said he doesn't want to stay with you. Whatever. Something's probably going to happen, and we're going to buckle down, and that is going to be our Super Bowl moment here, where you're going to continue to do things that are challenging so that you feel better about yourself when you hit the pillow at night, right? So, number one, life event. The second, lack of education on how to live after surgery. That's one. The fact that most bariatric patients, myself included, run to social media to learn how to live says that there's a lot wrong with what's going on in the surgical centers. And I try not to blame surgeons, because they are surgeons, right? Like, I can't be wrong at a mechanic if I hit another car. That wasn't his fault. He had nothing to do with that. But there's just a lack of, like, of post-op regulation care. So everyone has different stuff. Like, I don't know what center, if you did you have your,
I,
I don't know where you had your
I
surgery,
went to
Stacy, but I had mine
Tijuana.
here in Las Vegas. Yeah, so you and I
Yeah.
have different post-op care. It doesn't, like, they're all so
Yeah,
different and
they
interpretive.
pretty much gave me
And
a 5-page nutrition thing of,
mhm,
first 2 weeks do this,
mhm.
after this, and then here's a list of approved
Yeah,
foods. And I threw up probably the first 3, 4 months after surgery, because your stomach's
yeah,
so small, it's healing, and certain foods didn't agree with me, and I still have some foods that don't agree with me. So my knowledge was, it was very
right.
emotional. I think for me, like, emotional,
Yeah,
like, you cry because all the hormones and your body's resetting, and
mhm,
then you start realizing, holy crap, I did have a food problem, and it's very humbling, I guess
right.
would be a good thing to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just the end of, just not knowing what you want after, like, not knowing how to navigate life after surgery. Like, I see a lot of, our DMs. We get probably about 300 to 400 DMs a day
Wow.
about what we do, and that's people struggling. They just want a voice. They just want to be heard, really, and we give them that space, without ever asking for any money. We're like, "What's the problem? Let's see if we can help you or point you in the right direction." Um, and I would tell you that a lot of people often know better, but just, I don't know, are going to defy it for all sorts of silly reasons. And once again, they usually come back to life. Um, if you ask me why I had bariatric surgery, I know you guys asked me this question earlier, but I think the more important question I ask myself and my clients is, why did I get to the point of having to have bariatric surgery? Like, where can I take my responsibility out here? Because it is important that I do that. And one of my biggest problems is I don't like to be inconvenienced. And I don't like to be inconvenienced in many levels of my life, and not just with drive-throughs and fast food and Uber Eats, but like that constant inability to want to like figure out what to eat correctly and take the easy road played a big reason on why I had surgery. So when I talk to a lot of women who've regained their weight, that is one of their biggest problems is to be inconvenienced. And so they want quick and easy after surgery. So they continue quick and easy like they did before. And this is, compounded the entire problem. They're not cooking their meals, they're eating out frequently. They're eating a lot of slider foods that don't take up a lot of real estate in the stomach. So they're not staying full very long. They're still living on, protein shakes multiple times a day. They're just almost nutrient deficient. And that's just cueing them to be hungrier. But they just don't want to take the hard road. And I've always taken the shortcut and always ended up at the beginning every time. And my post-op bariatric journey has been taking the long road, right? But it's been a better view, and I'm still on that road. I haven't had to go back to the start.
That's
I do
good.
want to point out too, a lot of what you're saying is also true for the GLP-1s too. So I love
Oh,
that you are
100%.
adding that into your business model, because that a lot of this
Yeah.
is very similar. Whether you had surgery or a GLP-1, this
Hmm.
is a very similar situation. The tool is there to help you lose the weight, but at some
Yeah.
point you got to take it back yourself. Um
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the GLP-1 journey can be super sketchy, especially when you can just buy it like you can like from like, someone selling weed up the street, right? You can get it anywhere today online without very little conversation. And, that's, people are having it. And I think the most classic case that I see of people struggling with this is just not understanding how the medication works. So they don't feel the sensation to be hungry. So obviously they're not going to eat breakfast. And then they have something kind of sketchy by like mid afternoon. And then they eat at the evening and they reward themselves in the evening because they didn't eat all day. So they don't make the best food choice. But the way that medication works is so the food sits in your stomach longer, right? The food sits in your stomach longer, which keeps you full longer. And when you eat foods that are meant to be highly palatable and quickly digestible, like any fast food is, those are things your stomach's not used to having in there for a long time, right? Like if you think before your surgery, Stacey, if you and I went to McDonald's, right? We got a Big Mac and fries. You and I both know that 70 minutes later we could eat again, like without a doubt, because that food's not meant to stay in your stomach very long. If you and I went home and cooked a burger and got an actual bun and made French fries from scratch, which neither of us would do because that's too much work. But if we did that and we ate it, we'd be full for a longer time, right? A much longer time. Because the way that McDonald's obviously process their food is that they're there for quick, efficient. They're not there to have stuff with a long shelf life, or not for a short shelf life. So when you eat those things, they sit in your stomach very long on a medication that's meant to keep those foods in there longer. That's what makes you sick. That's what's going to cause the belly aches and make you nauseous. And then you're like, this medication doesn't work for me. The food choices are the problem there. So I see that classically. I've seen people gain weight on the GLP-1s, but I've seen people gain all their weight back with the surgery too. So it's like, it comes back to the actions. But I have found most GLP-1 people have the least amount of information when they go home with that thing. The only reason Stacy has a 5-sheeter is because she had a surgery, right? Like the only reason I had a binder was because I had
Yeah.
a surgery, right? If we had an in and out experience like that, we'd have very limited care, I think, as well. So I see it unfortunately
Yeah, I
a
see.
lot.
I've,
I saw somebody mention a bariatric surgeon compared GLP-1s to the lap band. And I thought that was an interesting conception. And then he went on to explain how, like, one of the lap band's downfalls, other than the fact that it just doesn't really work, was that any surgeon could start doing the lap band. You could be a surgeon who specialized in knee replacements. And all of a sudden you can make a quick couple of $1,000s by doing a lap band, right? And so you're not educated in what you're doing. You're just performing this because you have the letters behind your name to do it. And the same thing with the GLP-1s. People who have no history in bariatrics and don't understand obesity can now prescribe these things to people, and therefore they're just not providing any of that education
yeah.
either.
I actually am on GLP-1s. I have been. I think because
Hmm.
I stalled like a year after, and then it helped me lose more weight. But
Yeah,
it's all food choices. It's all food choices. All of it.
it is. It is to some, yeah, and it's also just complicated. Like, there's a lot of people who are gonna have surgery, and that surgery is gonna carry them somewhere, and then they have to, like, a
Yeah,
GLP-1 is that final push, you know? And there are some people who will lose it with just a GLP-1, some people who are going to just lose it with the surgery. It's great that we have all these tools today to help solve this problem, right? But it's a tool, and then you gotta
right.
show up and do the rest of the work. You're the one
Yeah, I
digging
think
with
I
that
think a
tool.
good thing to remember for our listeners too is finding the tools and the education with whatever you're doing. You know, there are
Yeah.
I mean, I got a GLP-1 through a nutritionist that I had to meet with every single week. And I had to have a food
Mhm.
journal and I had to do all of these things. And at the time, I felt like, oh, none of my friends have to do this. This is so annoying. But looking back, I'm very thankful because she would say, like, okay, just because you can eat that, you shouldn't be eating that. Or like, that's what made you sick the rest of the day.
Mhm.
And like that was very helpful. So there are people
Yeah,
out there, you might have to spend a little bit more money or something, but
absolutely.
if you're somebody that's on one of those and you're like, yes, I get this, I don't understand, I'm eating the wrong things, nothing's working, like you just might need somebody to walk alongside of you and kind of help. So there is
Mhm.
that, and that's a choice that you have to make with the weight loss is I need people to help me, or I need the correct education or the
Right.
Yeah.
correct tools. So that is something really important. Like none of these things
Mhm.
by themselves are the magic. Um, and some of these things by themselves can hurt you. So you have to make sure that you are doing your research, doing the thing, finding the correct people to help and all of that. So I think that's really important that you highlighted all
Yeah.
of that.
Are you finding more
Yeah.
GLP-1 clients? And because when we had our surgery, I don't think
Mhm.
GLP-1s were on the market yet. So so
They
we
weren't,
might have made a
no.
different decision back then, right? I mean, you
Right. We may have. I mean, I think that the FDA just greenlighted a daily swallowable Wegovy
Mhm.
pill last week, you know, so things are gonna we're gonna continuously see this medication change. There's a lot of people, you know, who say like this is not helpful. And I mean, people say that about bariatric surgery too, right? I just think this a lot of people don't understand how complicated obesity is. You know, if I got $1 for every like crappy comment I got on a video every day about how I took the
it was
easy way
not
out,
easy.
you
I
know,
would tell
I'd
you
be
surgery is not easy.
uh, yeah, people who say that are people, um, I just think that people, first off, only say things like that for
Yeah.
themselves, right? They're trying to make themselves feel better about a decision they're not making or something else going on in their life. Who knows? Um, but yeah, the I get a lot more GLP-1 girls say we get people who aren't on medication either, who are just
Mhm.
taking a food addiction approach. And that's always fun. And we don't teach a one size fits all, and that's so important to understand. I don't think, you know, food addiction has a complete 1000% absence on everything across the board. And even in the 12-step world, you know, there's Food Addicts Anonymous. There's actually 12 total versions of anonymous programs, 12-step programs for food addicts. There's Food Addicts in Recovery, Food Addicts Anonymous, there's Overeaters, there's Gray Shooters, because they all have a different approach to what works, right? And so here, if I work with somebody, you know, we look at the behavior pattern. And I have a classic example of a client who was really struggling with, do you know those skinny
Yes,
dipped
they're
almonds, like the
good.
brand skinny dipped? Yes, yes. And she loved them and she didn't want, they were on her logs all the time and they took up a serious amount of calories, you know? And I said, we gotta like maybe not be doing that so much, my friend. And she goes, "Well, I just can't give them up. They're my favorite sweet treat and every night." And so, all right, well, you know, let's see how the next week goes. She went and bought herself a bag and was going to portion it out. And she ate the whole bag the first night. I was like, okay, you know, let's think about this. Let's think about it. What do you want to do next? She goes, I'm going to Ziploc bag the portions. So I just grabbed my portion. Who has a counter full of Ziplocs at the end of the night? My friend, right? And I said, what are you going to do? Have we thought that maybe we're a little powerless over these skinny dipped almonds? Not yet, right? She's now going to Ziploc them and stick them in the trunk of her car. Who do you think is in the trunk of the car in the middle of
Wow.
the night, you know? And sometimes we just have to see that and have it pointed out to us that, like, we can't have it. Like, we're clearly not responsible with it, you know? And it's
I think
So
everyone's
I
different,
think this
you know,
leads
everyone's a little
into
bit
the next
different.
yeah.
question.
Yep.
Stacy, do you want to
Yep.
go into
Yep.
it?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's like, can you explain transfer addiction and why it's common after surgery?
Yeah. So, transfer addiction is the idea that you have an addiction of some sort, and when that addiction is taken away, it's transferred. My I see this in Alcoholics Anonymous more than I see it in bariatric surgery. I see people get sober and take it to food because food's probably not going to put you in jail. Food's probably, not going to get you a DUI and not going to get you, in trouble with the wife. So I see it often there more than anywhere else. The bariatric community, the notion is that transfer addiction is often alcoholism, depending on the study you look at, but people who have the bypass can have, I mean, I've read studies from 10 to 20% chance of becoming an alcoholic. And that's not just transfer addiction because those studies don't add up for people who had the sleeve. So why is it different? It's the way that sugar is absorbed so much faster that it's just easier to get hooked to it with the bypass than it is with the sleeve.
And I,
But I would say with
you
bariatric
had the sleeve,
patient,
right?
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so did I.
I
Okay,
had the
yeah.
sleeve, yeah.
There's a
Mhm.
big difference.
Yeah, and I haven't there is a big difference, and I haven't drank since, I've been sober for some time now, so I haven't had an alcohol with the sleeve, nor do I intend to, but, I see more commonly when I think of transfer addiction, the impulsiveness, I see it in my clientele with shopping more than I see it
Mm,
with alcohol. I see it with shopping, and I think you just get that same quick hit of the browsing and the hitting the button and waiting for the thing to show up, kinda like Uber Eats, right? We have our clients at a certain point in our program, we ask them to remove their credit card information from Amazon for some time. They can buy whatever they want, buy it, but you have to go to your purse and get the card at 10 p.m. when you're in bed scrolling and create some of that friction because it's just so easy
yeah,
today to have a thought and then
that's
have it
true.
to the door in the morning, right? Or in some cases, 3 hours later, right? So we try to teach them that, but I mean, I've definitely heard some really, awful stories about alcoholism after surgery, and that's, always super sad. I get messages all the time about that. I was very open about my recovery, and it is deteriorating and it can kill you. Um, it can take you out real quick, So, but I would say shopping, and for alcoholics, food. That's probably what I see most frequently.
Wow. So, for anyone listening, what does actual nourishment look like when portions are small? So let's kind of change into like
Yeah.
the nourishment portion of weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my breakfast over here today. I'm still working on it. Like I eat the same thing every morning. Not because I like it. This is not French toast. Okay. This is not pancakes. This is plain Greek yogurt with unsweetened cacao, almond extract, some cherries, and a
That
couple of
actually
nuts
sounds good.
crushed on it. Um, it isn't, I mean, I'm used to it now. Am I over it some mornings? Yeah, but I don't have an emotional attachment to breakfast. Most people I work with don't like breakfast. And I think that is part of that metabolic disease. I think it's just one of those symptoms to not be cued for breakfast in the morning. So I have breakfast, within like the first hour of getting up. Sometimes it takes me time to get it down, and I give myself that grace. It's not a race to get my breakfast down. If it takes me an hour to do it, it takes me an hour to do it. But I like to start every morning with like 20 to 25 grams of chewable food. That also activates the cephalic face of the body, saying, "Hey, we're getting food. It's coming," right? When we drink those calories, we don't activate that same cephalic face. It doesn't recognize that. We tend to be cued to be
I'm
hungrier
glad you
again.
said that because
I encourage
not to cut you off, but I'm glad you said that because
yeah,
my whole life I always tell
that's a
people I never am full from protein shakes, soup, none of that. I can't it doesn't do it for
nah.
ever. And I always feel
Mm-mm.
crazy because I'm like, I just that never makes me feel full. Ever, 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 ever.
It does. It doesn't. It's like whey protein. Like if you have surgery, whey protein is a beautiful solution early post-op, right? Because your stomach is like this. It's like, what in the heck just happened here, right? It's really tight, and the exterior of your stomach is made from like the same materials that our muscles are made from. So what's happening, like as Stacy and I are further post-op, we can consume more. It's just because it's relaxed, like a muscle. I often compare it to like spraining an ankle, right? Like right after surgery, you sprained an ankle, you're not moving on it, right? You ain't doing anything. You're couch ridden, right? So that's for us, that's the protein shakes. All of a sudden, maybe we can get up on a crutch and bear a little weight. So now we're on purees, right? And now maybe we can get rid of the crutch and we just got like a little limp. And so now we're on to soft foods. right? And then all of a sudden our ankle's better and this is its new home, right? And then we just move back, we move forward from there. And then by this point is really when you want to reintroduce just eating real foods again and get out of the habit. You asked me earlier about the habits of the people I've worked with who regain the prophy, 100%. And there's an entire bariatric community that is obsessed with this idea of prophy. It's like, you know, if I don't follow bariatric TikTok, um, and even though I'm obviously part of it, but I try not to. My algorithm is like special to me. I like what I want to see, right? I try to keep it really tuned in. But the idea that this is just how we eat for the rest of our lives, it really falls into that convenience trap. But it doesn't keep you full. Whey protein is quick digestible and cheap. And up until the 80s, it's, well, not up to the 80s, to this day, all it is a film on top of cheese that is pulled off and dried and chemically altered, right? And up until the 80s, it was just trashed until someone realized that you can make billions of dollars off of selling it. And the boom of that combined with bariatric surgery, it has just like taken over the market, that is all you need to be. But when you look at chicken, if you look at 25 grams of chicken and you look at 25 grams of a shake, even your brain recognizes this is probably going to keep me full. This is going to probably do the job, right? This is not going to sit in your tummy very long.
So, when did
Yeah,
you realize that there was a gap in post-surgery support? Was it right after surgery or?
100% right after I had my surgery. And even a little bit before, and I don't want to like dog my center that I had my surgery at because they're phenomenal. I've had have a communication with them in 3 years almost, but um, they unless you advocate that you have a problem, will that do any of these centers intervene? And then they don't even know really what to do there. And I think my reality, and I made the rewrite, I've had the rewrite for years, but it wasn't until our first conference with ASMBS and being around surgeons, nutritionists, dietitians, coordinators, and realizing they don't have a solution either to this, that I actually realized the magnitude of the problem. People were like, how are you doing it? I have surgery centers asking, like, how can we implement what you do? And I wish I had like a simple answer, like, this is easy. But me and the other girls who coach here, this is a soul project. We make ourselves available 24 hours a day to our clientele. A surgery center is not going to do that. And we do it at a really fair price, without having to have insurance involved. And I think it's you have to be really
Yeah,
passionate to want
yeah.
to do it. Like, you got to be okay with that 1 a.m. I'm struggling text message, and be willing to take it. um so I think it's just a hard gap to fill in from a Western medicine surgical center insurance world, and which is very rigid.
I love that. What are 3 habits that come to the top of your head that someone should avoid or that someone should focus on to avoid regaining?
Tracking their food. I tracked my food religiously for the first 2 years. I had the most control. Um, During that time, I felt like I knew the most about myself. I learned a lot about myself. On my Fitness Pal and wherever you track, but on my Fitness Pal, you can take notes. So like I would note, diligently, like if I ate something, how I felt a little bit afterwards. And I had to do all this research on myself to really understand myself. But that would number one is like, tracking all of your food. That is so important and
I
a great
haven't
habit to get
I
into.
I haven't been tracking my food like I have been this past year. So, I would say that when I did track my food, I'm surprised how much I didn't eat. Like, I thought I ate I like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm sure I got enough calories in, enough food in." And every time I would like, "I haven't gotten enough protein in. I haven't gotten enough food in." And you
Yes,
think you did,
yes.
especially on a GLP-1, right? Because 'Cause you're
Mhm.
not as hungry. And it's even harder to eat on a
Yes,
GLP-1, and I
yes.
have a small stomach, so I'm, like, battling 2 things here. Like, you can't overeat because then you throw
Mhm.
up, and I definitely don't wanna do that. So,
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah.
I'm gonna restretch. Like I said, I don't have goals for, like, big rapid weight loss anymore, but I
Right.
just wanna, like, start tracking and, like, get back into nutrition and cooking my food, you know? So, like, I would agree, like, tracking your food is very eye-opening. Like if you're listening and you haven't
It
done
is.
it, it is a pain. It is a pain to do. It's
Mhm.
annoying. But after
Yeah.
you do it, and then it's just a realization, it's keeping yourself accountable. It's like, oh wow, I
Yeah.
didn't really eat as much as I thought I did.
Yeah. I also think that you gotta figure out what kind of, like, annoying stuff you wanna do, because I used to be annoyed at a flight of stairs, right? Like, I was like, "Not a flight of stairs today," you know? And I had to go up the flight of stairs at 298, which is my heaviest, right? And now if that means that I have to track my food, and to avoid that, I'm gonna do it. And also, I learn a lot from the girls who've regained their weight, and it's just so common from them to
Yeah,
not be tracking their food,
because it's a pain.
right?
It's an
They're not,
inconvenience.
Well,
The
right?
same thing you said
and
Uh,
before.
mhm.
there's new apps too I saw that you can just take a picture of something and it kind of tracks it for you.
Yeah,
And if you're not, I don't know if I think that that's 100% accurate, but it's a good way to start and to get into the habit. It's all about habits,
it
right? Like,
is.
and then once you're in it, you got to
Yeah.
stay there. If you're on vacation, still track. If you're on, like, I feel like for me, anytime I'm tracking my
Mhm.
food, I feel like my whole life is in order. Like, I wake up and I make my bed, I track my food, I'm
Yes.
eating right, I'm going to the gym. But then when one of those things falls out of place, or I go on vacation, or like you said, a life event, the next thing you know, like everything's kind of just spiraling. So I think
That
that it's a good thing to like
Yeah.
just as one
the
of the things that keep you on track.
I'll be honest, the one of the things I don't like about tracking food is because then it's always on my mind. And I honestly do not want to think
Mhm.
about food all day long. And
Hmm.
that's really, I think, the struggle for me is okay,
I've got a
I
tip for
just
you
don't
on
want to
that
think
one.
about
I
food
got a
all
big
day.
tip. Track it. Track your day in the morning. Put it in there for the day. Most of us know what we're already doing for dinner and lunch, even if it's just the protein. Even if you know, I've got, salmon at home and I'm intending on having that for dinner tonight, just put that 4 ounces of salmon in there. That was one of my favorite ways when I was tracking, because then I also had a roadmap for the day, so I didn't have to
Yeah.
think about food anymore. I already had written down what I was doing for the whole day, right? And that really leads me to, like, my second tip, which is, like, finding some
Yeah.
other stuff to focus on, right? Because right after you have these surgeries, or very, into the GLP-1s working, you're not thinking about food as much. And you kind of get this weird, cool opportunity and some free time, because you're not shopping, you're not going out to eat, you're not making stuff. It's like, oh, even like an extra 30 to 45 minutes a day, get a life. Like, get a life, Like, and that's like kind of one of my underlining jokes about when I watch the Profi stuff and the water talk and all that crap. Like, there's gotta be something more than what you're flavoring your water with today. Like, you gotta have something way more exciting to wake up to, right? You gotta find the things that if you wanted to do, and you're gonna have a little extra time to do it. And I'm not saying, go and financially obligate yourself to some crazy stuff, but we all have stuff in our house we bought
Yeah.
on Black Friday that we haven't tried, crafting, things we just wanted to do. Start doing them,
So how do you help
start
clients
doing them.
move from perfection to consistency?
Just get right back up. Right, there's no perfection. I think that's one of the misunderstood things about the rewrite is we don't teach perfection. As if we have, like, these rigid rules over here or something. You're gonna fall down. How fast you get up and you review the fall down is what's important. Every time I get a client who says, we just had the holidays, right? We had a lot of people who didn't feel 100% about some of their choices. Did we learn anything? How could we have done it better? And every time it came down to the same thing. It was a
Yep.
lack of planning. I knew I was gonna go to this house, and I knew they probably weren't gonna have something I could eat, and I didn't bring anything, right? That's number 1 I've heard all week. So we just secured a piece of knowledge, which is that we just always have to have a plan.
So can
I
the
We
think
have to have
plan
a plan,
be, as the
you know?
holidays just, are passing now, can't you just have
Yeah.
some of those cookies and those things? Can that be part of the plan?
I think it's for some people they can. Maybe some people can do it, hit it and quit it, right? I don't think that it necessarily everyone, once again, different. There's going to be a girl who can have one cookie and not care. There's going to be a girl who's going to have a cookie and eat a bunch of cookies. I'm the type of person that if you bring me a crumble cookie and you cut it in half and say I can have half tonight and half tomorrow, I eat that half. I will spend the rest of tonight thinking about the other half
Okay.
sitting in my kitchen. Why am I not just doing it now? Why wait till tomorrow? Just get it out of the house and I'll never buy it again. That's what I'll think. That thinking takes up too much of my time. in my brain. So I don't want that thinking, and I know what foods are going to fire off that thinking, so I avoid those foods, right? Um, and I kind of like relearned this lesson at my wedding, man. Like I took a bite of cake for the photos. I don't really eat cake. And I took a bite and, sure as shit the next day I felt it because I don't regularly
Well, and
consume
sugar is
sugar.
very addicting. It
Oh yeah.
actually
And
truly is
yeah.
addicting.
Mhm.
I feel it when I put it
Very
in my
is.
body.
Yeah, it's just as
I feel it
addicting
when
as
I put it in my
tobacco.
body. Yeah.
And I felt it. I felt it and it wasn't even that much of it and it was enough to be like, God damn. Like I don't know if that was really totally worth it for that photo, And I have the tools today to be able to bounce back from these things like that. And it's not a common occurrence for me. But I posted this in our community this morning. I was telling this exact story I just told you about the cake. And I was just like, when I scroll my socials, I see a lot of dietitians and nutritionists who say it's the holidays, have the cookies, savor the wine, as if we all thinking on the same wavelength. And I know not every piece of social media is made for me to consume, but that is the message that comes from a lot of our, people that we should be taking advice from. And that's like things a little sketch. If you haven't been in those shoes, it's hard to relay. Most of my nutrition experience with nutritionists is they did not have bariatric surgery. They got, a dietitian, especially, which is a master's degree. They have had an interest in this field since they were teenagers, right? So weight struggles and stuff, we ain't talking on the same, man. You can't tell me to have
Mhm.
one Oreo.
Right.
You can't tell me to
Right.
have one drink.
There's
You
no
can't
one
tell me to
telling
have
an
one key
alcoholic
bump. Like
like
it's
just
not gonna
savor
happen.
that one glass of wine. Like no one
Mhm.
says that. So then when it comes to
Yeah,
food, why are you telling
no,
someone just savor it?
I
It's a
know.
slippery slope.
Yeah, yeah, and this idea that, there's no good food or bad food. I hate when people say that. There's no good food or bad food. Like you're preaching restriction. Tell a type 2 diabetic there's no good food and bad food. Tell someone with celiacs there's no good, tell someone with a peanut allergy, right? I don't metabolize certain foods correctly. Something happens when I consume them. I gain weight, my glucose goes up, my cholesterol goes up, my blood pressure, something happens when I
Mhm.
consume certain foods, right? That's what happens here. The second thing that happens to me is something up here where I obsessively think about eating more of it. And I think I can control this part. I say, this is willpower, this is discipline, this is structure. This is just a symptom of the first part. Is that now internally down here, my guts, my blood can't handle it. Up here, my brain overrides logic. And it's the exact same allergy I have with alcohol. It's the exact same allergy I have with cocaine and probably some other drugs I haven't tried. Imagine it would be the same reaction.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have had nutritionists tell me before, like, my body feels, and I know it's not the best nutrition or whatever, but my body feels the best when I am doing like a low carb diet, keto. My body feels good. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, and I mentally can handle eating that way. Once I've done it for like 2 weeks, it's no more thinking about it. I'm good. And I always
Yeah.
argue with nutritionists. And I'm like, listen, I know that carbs are healthy and when eaten correctly, but I'm going to argue with you over how my body physically feels when I take them out. And
Right.
so I appreciate you saying that there's good foods and bad foods for different body types different body styles.
A
Because if
hundred
a food
percent.
makes you feel terribly, you don't have to consume it. You just don't have to. No one's forcing you
Right.
to.
You know.
Especially if you like the way it tastes, then you really shouldn't have it. But if you're eating it and it makes you feel terrible
Right.
because you
Right.
like it, like that's a problem. Um,
Exactly.
what uh speaking of that kind of stuff, like how did your identity shift after your surgery?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot changed. A lot changed, man. I'm not the same person that, Stacy knows from years ago, I'm sure. And my habits changed, my hobbies changed. I started the rewrite on a fluke. I was in Alcoholics Anonymous for a little bit at that time, and I sold my house. I got really lucky. Zillow quoted, not Zillow. What's the other one, Stacy?
Open door.
Not Zillow,
Open
but they
door.
buy houses.
Yeah.
Open Door quoted me incorrectly, and I signed the paperwork. And so they had to pay me far more than what my house was worth, and I was able to pay out all my debts in AA. And so I had some money in the bank, and I had a regular 9 to 5 job at the time because I was restarting my life. And somebody in AA asked me to go into business with them, that they had a business venture, trusted this person immensely. And I gave them the remaining of my savings account, which was like $20,000. And they completely robbed me. And I had quit my job to work for them. And I had all this free time, which is what put me on social media. So I normally wasn't someone who made content like that, especially on TikTok. And all of a sudden, I just it just snowballed, and like somebody in March of 23 asked me if I would help them. And I was like, that's weird. And how do you even do that? What do I charge? And I don't have any certifications. I'm just a, person trying to figure it out themselves. And my identity just so shifted once the rewrite took off. Like I was just like, it was just so much confirmation that I wasn't crazy, what I was thinking and feeling, and that there were so many other people that were going through the same thing. And even who I am like a year ago, I constantly change. I give myself this space to learn, right? I give myself the space to have cake on my wedding and regret it. Like I'm going to learn the hard way, because that has been how history has shown me that I tend to learn a good lesson, is by doing the opposite as recommended. And like, meeting my husband, that is like just such an example of like being a different person. People ask me, crappy questions, because people sometimes feel the rights to be able to ask some of these really weird things. But like, would you and Daniel have dated before your surgery? And the answer is no, because Daniel and I had nothing in common back then. Like, Daniel and I didn't like to work out together, right? Chanel wasn't working out. Daniel, likes to cook healthy. Chanel did not. She wanted to go Taco Bell, right? Like, we just didn't have any hobbies together at the same time. Like, I've just completely changed who I am today. And not for the bad, but for who I've always wanted to be.
What role does emotional healing play in long-term success?
So I think of it as emotional sobriety, right? Like there's a term called a dry drunk. And you might, like, I know what a dry drunk is because I didn't go into AA for my first year of drinking, or my first year of sobriety. But I also experienced being a dry drunk, irritable, restless, and discontent right after my surgery, because food wasn't there anymore like it used to be. Right. And I was like, what is going on here? Why am I a jerk? Right. When I got sober from alcohol, why am I still so short? Why do I still like not want to be alive? Like, why do I hate everything? Like, my emotional sobriety did not exist. And I have to take accountability. I have to have boundaries. I have to have hard conversations with people, right? And I was a people pleaser to the moon and back, right? And I would do whatever, how high do you want me? Oh, you want $20,000 for my savings account? Here you go, right? Like, these are the things that I was willing to do, you know, um, to be liked, because I didn't like myself. And I had to work through all of those things. And I love teaching my clients about resentments and fears, and embracing those fears and working through those resentments. The littlest things will drive us off, right? The husband says he's going to put the dishes away at night. You wake up in the morning, he didn't put the dishes away. You're mad, so you go to the drive-through and it's his fault, right? And these things like that, we have to like, if we want grace, we have to give him grace. You don't want to tell him he didn't do the dishes because he's going to pick out something you didn't do. We got to take accountability there. We got to work through our resentments. And we do things like inventory here, all sorts of stuff like that. And especially fears, because my time has been wasted throughout my life because of a fear I don't want to embrace. And I will create the worst case scenario in my head, not even once entertaining the best case scenario. Right. And I will avoid things. I will create more misery instead of just allowing myself to be miserable for a second.
Yeah. That is going to connect with a lot of people that listen for sure. Um and what would you say to someone who is listening to that and they're carrying some shame, or just from this whole episode that it's dug up some shame in them and some guilt? What would you say to those people?
You got a meal coming up. Change it. That's it. Do one thing today, just one thing today, that will, when you hit the pillow tonight, you can be super excited that you did it. Right? When I go to bed at night, I want to hit the pillow and I don't want to run scenarios through my head on things that I did wrong. I'll own up to it. I'll write it down and think how I could have done it better. And I'm not just talking about food, and all sorts of places in my life. And I will start afresh. And I constantly just learn from myself. Like, being self aware and knowing myself to a T makes it just a lot easier. We all know ourselves to a T. So just being honest with ourselves about, the things and what we're doing and stuff. Like if I go back to the story about the husband and the dishes, right? You know that you found an opportunity to get what you really wanted and you're going to point blame somewhere else, right? I would do that. That was always my MO. Like if my child was to ask me 5 years ago to go to McDonald's, I'm going to say, yeah, it's 7 p.m. Let's go. Let's get in the car, go for a little trip. We'll both get McDonald's. Am I going to have that same level of enthusiasm if he asked me to take him to the park or play a board game with him right now? If I don't have any skin in the game, right? And just seeing where my ego lies and how self-centered I can be at times, So, but to come back to your question, just arming yourself with those facts, and that's okay. We're all like that. Like nobody is perfect. No one's out here just, a 10 out of 10 day in and day out, man. Not at all.
Yeah,
Not at all.
that's great advice.
So before we go into our rapid fire, I just want to give a chance to, how can people find you if they're interested in your program? And we'll post it in the socials too, but like
Yeah,
just on
so
the,
perfect. Yeah. Our Facebook group is my first recommendation. The Bariatric Rewrite Private Group is the name of our Facebook group. We post Whole Foods recipes in there every day, so you can just kind of come in there and check those out. They're in our albums. But we do a workshop every 2 weeks, and that the workshops are always free and they're live coaching. So you come on and tell me what's going on, and I assist you there. And you can learn. You don't have to participate. We have a couple hundred people on there, so you can just sit and listen. You can also find me on TikTok. I coach_Shenelle, and Instagram is going to be the Bariatric Rewrite. And on Facebook, I am now Shenelle Green.
because she
So a little
just
accent
got
just
married.
would be weird.
Yay.
All right. Well,
So that's how. Oh, and then
Oh, okay.
bariatricrewrite.com. We
There
have a
we go.
website as
awesome. It will
well.
be in our
All
show
right.
notes and our bio and all of that. If you guys are
Yes.
looking for Shenelle. But right now we play a little game with all of our amazing women so far. We haven't interviewed men. We haven't discussed if we're going to or not,
No,
but
we
who
haven't.
knows?
We haven't.
But all of our ladies that come on, we like to play a little game, a little rapid fire glow up edition, where we just ask you some questions rapid fire, 1 or 2 word answers, and we go from there. Stacy, are you
Yep.
ready?
Let's go. All right.
All right.
One food every post-bariatric client should prioritize.
One
Protein.
habit that matters
No
more
brainer.
than the scale.
Tracking.
Something people think is healthy but isn't.
Go
Protein shakes.
to high protein snack.
Shrimp. I always have
They're
shrimp in
my
my house. For sure.
favorite.
Yeah, and I'll get the primal cocktail sauce that doesn't have added
Huh?
sugar in it.
I'm so
I
healthy.
have it every day.
Yay.
I love shrimp.
One thing you wish you knew before surgery.
I mean, surgery is not going to change your everything. It's not. Oh, actually, I'm gonna take it back. The scale will not make you happy.
That's a good one. Favorite non-scale victory.
There you go.
Oh, climbing up a stripper pole.
Love it.
Which, by the way, I've seen girls at my OG weight date, so that's not weight oriented, but
That's
I
pretty
couldn't have
funny.
done
I
it
like that.
beforehand.
Your definition of a glow up.
I think anybody who's willing to accept all their dirty laundry and use it to their benefit and make it who they are
I have
Love that.
today.
one that's not on here, Stace,
Oh,
but what
okay.
are you most proud of for yourself?
I want to say my son, but that's a
But
complicated
for you,
answer.
what are you most proud of in
Um,
yourself?
yeah, that I showed up as a parent. It took a lot to do it. I was not a good parent during my drinking years, and I'm proud of the parent I've become today, like the parent that I probably wanted, and not in that like make him do all the things he don't want because I want him sort of way, but to just have fun with him and be sober for
Love
him.
that.
That's awesome.
All right. This is our signature closing question we ask every guest. And can you share a time when you felt like you were breaking, but that moment became the spark that ignited a glow up?
If you search my name in TikTok, the moment that other people had a problem with what I was teaching and that I saw how controversial it was to change your life after bariatric surgery, I knew that I was onto something because people don't get mad about things that don't ruffle feathers, and sometimes a positive light, more times a positive light, I think. And I knew at that moment what I was doing was going to change people's lives, right? I knew that I was this was going to be something. Um and then on a personal level, getting sober, quitting drinking December 27th of 2020, when I decided that I was done, and I went to social media and said I was done and really kind of laid my dirty laundry out on the internet. um, I knew things were gonna happen, and that was 5 years ago. And I have gotten every single promise I was told I would get in Alcoholics Anonymous since that day, and that is like the dopest thing
That's awesome.
ever.
I love that. Shenelle, thank you so much for your honesty and your vulnerability.
Yeah.
I know that our listeners are, whether they are at their goal or need to get to their goal or had surgery or GLP-1s or anything in between, they are going to take something huge away from this conversation. So thank you so much for just being so open.
Yes.
And yeah, and remember,
Thanks for
growth
having me.
isn't about perfection. It's about healing, consistency, and choosing yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Keep
So we're going to keep glowing and
growing
keep
and
growing.
growing. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And
Yes.
hopefully,
Yes, of course.
people want to see you further. You can help more and more people, and helping women every day. That's an amazing, and men. That's amazing that you're doing that.